Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
For those of you who wonder about what it's like to age, or how are you going to live, or does your life have any meaning, I'm going to let you talk to, well, sure, you're going to hear someone, Lowell Berggren, who is the CEO and president of an organization called Jones Harrison. And he really has led an exemplary life in the senior care industry for 30 years. He's been a responsible financial officer, administrator, and forward-thinking leader. And as president and chief operating officer of the oldest continually run senior home in Minnesota, it's called Jones Harrison, Berggren is significantly raising the bar in the senior care industry. So why do you care, Lowell?
Well, that's a good question, Anita. Why do I care?
Right.
I'm going to try to be brief on that. I started a long time ago, and when I started, I was an accountant. And I remember my friends coming out of school, they were all going CPA, and I took an accounting job in a nursing home. And I remember back in those days, they'd say, "Oh, nursing home, really?" And I was shy about it. I'm like, "Yeah, it's a nursing home." Didn't say I was a great accountant, but that's the job I could get. Well, over the years, as things have progressed and over time, I've learned that it's really a wonderful thing to be part of a nursing home. But what's really prompted me on this whole issue is that, when you talk to people and you say nursing home to the general public, what kind of a response do you think you get there?
We know.
Well, yeah, you get the strangest things, like warehouse. I've heard just shoot me. I've heard, I'd rather get hit by a bus. And, in the old days, I'd take that, but I just don't think as an organization and my board, we want to change that. Because when people have that feeling about aging and the people who live in nursing homes, it really takes the meaning away from them, because it says that you're there and therefore your purpose is complete. So just, isolate, then slow down and die. And that just isn't the way it's supposed to be. And that's why we've started the speaker series, and that's why I've become a partner with Jane Barish and the Continuum Center. And it really is all about trying to change the paradigm of how people think about aging and nursing homes and the people who live in them. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. So why don't you take us on a virtual tour? I'm sitting here. Take us through and talk to us. Make believe the patients are sitting there and talk to them, talk about them. Just tell me what I'm going to see. I've just arrived.
Okay. Well, the first thing you're going to see is a very nice lobby. We do take care of our buildings. Like I said, we've been here 126 years. The board is very concerned about the fact that, our mission overall is to provide innovative programs and supportive services for older adults in a loving, gracious setting. We know we're a gracious setting, and the key here is that it's our employees that make us loving. So you would sense that right off the bat, that our employees are engaged and they're happy. They will say hi. Our residents will say hi. There's a lot of activity going on. As far as an organization is concerned, we are a nursing home. We're a 163-bed skilled nursing home. We specialize in short stay or transitional care, so people who have knee replacements, hips, heart attacks, those types of things. We have a unit for that, and we're very good at that. We have our own in-house therapy service. We specialize in memory care on our second floor, so you'd find a whole floor of 5 neighborhoods full of individuals who have dementia. We also specialize in just general long-term care, but we also, what's really important is we provide wellness, land-based and water-based therapies. So you would see our wellness area, the Wazi Wellness Center, and the warm therapeutic pool, and exercise physiologists on staff that bring people down to help them regain their strength or increase it to avoid falls and maybe get off some medications. We also have arthritis therapy. If you walked into that room in the morning, you'd find it the most comfortable room on the planet, people just nice and quiet with hot packs and cold packs, paraffin dips. And then we have assisted living, which is not part of the nursing home, but it's kind of intertwined. So you'd look at our population and you'd say that I can tell you our average age is about 84. They do not consider themselves elderly.
Of course not.
Yeah, lots of times it's like, well, I don't want to live with those old people. I get it, but it is kind of funny.
It is.
So I don't know if that paints a picture, but we're on the south end of Cedar Lake. We're in a neighborhood. So parking is always a problem for us, and we know that. But at least, we're set in a neighborhood situation where you're not dealing with highways and huge parking lots. Does that help?
It does. And so my question is population, how many people? How many residents do you have?
How many residents? Well, we have about 54 assisted living tenants. And in our nursing home today, we have 146 with a capability for 157. And that covers the whole gamut of the levels of care that we provide.
And the big important thing I always ask is, do the families support this? I mean, do they come and are they a part of this?
The families are a big part of it. We try to bring them in whenever we can. I have found that they've been very supportive. Anytime that you can work towards bringing meaning towards somebody who's in a nursing home, it helps the family too, especially when you're dealing with a mother or a father or aunt or uncle who has dementia. Sometimes those types of inflictions are harder on families than they are on the people who are actually experiencing them. And so by helping them understand what meaning is and what consciousness is, I think we're doing a wonderful thing for them, and they're very appreciative of that.
The other thing that I have, and I've spent a lot of time volunteering and being a part of this whole field, is the people who go there, many of them like to be volunteers themselves. I mean, that they're living there, but even in wheelchairs, they want to be a part of something.
Well, that's true too. It's fascinating. I don't know how many people you've talked to who are over 100 years old. I've talked to many of them, and my philosophy on the whole idea of longevity is really it's all about your ability to adapt to change. But when you talk to these older adults, all they really want to help. That you ask them what they need to help the other residents. And that can be by delivering papers, that can be by working in the library, that can be by helping people with their mail. It's just fascinating, and it's really heartwarming to watch, to tell you the truth.
I see. Well, I live with a man who's 91. He's my husband for 41 years, so I know what an older person can be like. They are just absolutely, especially my husband, he is gung-ho. He's been writing books. He's got another big plan that he needs to be alive for another 10 years. So this is an exciting time in our century. And I do know a lot of people who are over the age of 100. My mother lived to be 94, her sister 95, her other sister 88, my father 88, my grandmother 95. So I've been surrounded by older people, and they just go because they don't see themselves, as you said, Lowell, as an older person. They just, unless they're really sick, they don't see that.
Well, and they've had the opportunity to educate themselves on being healthy, and working out and those types of things. And yet, you are correct. There's so many options in the community these days, besides just a nursing home, that the population, you say there's a lot of older people around here. Well, there's going to be a lot more.
Yep.
Going forward. So.
Well, getting back now to this, I think the whole thing is we find people who have no dementia. They do great, and they're maybe they have knees and hips and some other health problems. But once someone gets dementia, it is very difficult for them. I have a friend now who's just turning 50, and she has early Alzheimer's. So My question is, do you have like a separate area for people with dementia? How do you deal with this?
Well, yes, we do. We have 5 distinct neighborhoods. They have themes like, as we call it, Hilltop, Bout de France, Cedar Bay, and they're all designed to have some familiarity. So the walls all, it just depends on the location of the building. But it's all 5 neighborhoods are on it's a second floor. It's a secured unit. So really, people wear a wristband, and if they get on the elevator stops, and then people are redirected. But there's so many levels of dementia. It's hard to really say how. We don't have like an Alzheimer's unit per se. So when someone comes to Jones Harrison, if they're on the memory loss, they stay in their home until they progress through whatever infliction that they're dealing with. But you are right; it's hard for people to take care of people with dementia. It's, what I always tell people is that, well, this is what I'm telling my own sister about my mother. She's dealing with dementia in a beginning kind of way, and the issue is that it's wandering. If once someone starts wandering and can't figure out how to get back, that's a very dangerous situation. And the other side is it gets really heavy on the caregiver. If you're dealing with issues of incontinence and bathing, those types of things, that can get really physically challenging for people to keep people at home. And I think that's where we come in and provide that kind of a quality service on our dementia unit.
Yes, you're so right about that. And Lowell Berggren is my guest. He's CEO and president of Jones Harrison, which is it's an exemplary nursing home, assisted living in Minneapolis. It is Minneapolis, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yes, we're right on the south end of Cedar Lake.
Right, Cedar Lake. And I just have to say that it has attracted more and more people into this field, being an administrator and running homes like this, because years ago, there were horror stories, 50 years ago, 40 years, maybe even 30 years ago. But now it seems like everyone is trying to compete with the other with what they can do best and better. And there are all sorts of innovations and ideas, which is great, because I think that these people themselves now know they're going to grow older, and they want to make sure that when they're ready that they have everything that they want. What do you think about that?
Exactly. I agree with that statement. Yes, I think the key to that is that when you talk about nursing homes, I've been fortunate to work with very quality organizations through my career. I happen to have been on the nonprofit side of that, but I know there are quality for-profits too. The key to me is that, you talk about 50 years ago, we were poorhouses.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And people lived in nursing homes for years. And now, and I don't want to go too long, but we call it it's the morbidity curve. Basically today, years ago, people would live here 5-10 years, right? Well, the way it is now, people are staying home longer, and it's great for them, but they hit this acuity level where soon their caregivers can't handle it, or they just become so dependent that they need the skilled 24-hour skilled nursing care or even assisted living care on a daily basis. But our average stay here at Jones Harrison, I think, is about 284 days. It's almost less than a year, and maybe more in some cases. But that's because people are coming in and they're healthy, but then when they decline very quickly. So from just like 15 years ago, for instance, I think last month we had 33 admissions and like 32 discharges. That used to be a whole year for us. Now we do that in a month. Isn't that interesting?
No, it is.
I mean, to think about how that really works. So it's not like people live here forever, But what I do like to say is that, people, when I say that, I say a morbidity curve, everyone thinks death, and that's true. However, I really feel once the decision is made and people come to a Jones Harrison or a other quality home, they're coming here to live. They're not coming here to die. That happens to everybody anyway. So, from a nursing home standpoint, I think, there are some operators out there I wouldn't put my mother in.
Right.
But I think the way to think about it is to if you're in that situation, and usually that happens very quickly. It's all of a sudden you need a nursing home, you need a good one, and you need it now. That's the way it kind of goes. But the idea is go visit, go see it, feel it, talk to the employees. Spend a lot of time paying attention to some of the quality indicators and how many activity staff they have. I don't know. That's just my advice on that.
So
but I also think,
good.
Go ahead.
No, that's what I wanted you to say. Give advice to somebody who doesn't live in Minnesota, doesn't live in Minneapolis, where they can go to your beautiful facility. What should they be asking people? What should they be looking for?
Well, what I get when I take people on tours is I ask them what their questions are, and sometimes they just don't even know what to ask. It's so new and it's so complicated. There's so much to it that it becomes a little overwhelming. So what you would want to do is look at their, you can go on all kinds of websites. There's the Department of Human Services website. You can look at quality scores and see surveys and all of that. I can tell you those can be somewhat subjective. So when you go and you visit, take a tour, talk about your staffing ratios, what are your productive hours per resident day, and compare. Look at their therapeutic recreation, pull an activity calendar, talk about their meal service, how is it served, what options are there. And then look at one thing people forget to do is to pay attention to the infrastructure of the building. How well have they kept up their building? And, if the power goes out, what actually happens? Those types of things I think are important, especially if there's an emergency in the area. But then pay attention to the staff. Do they feel angry? Are they smiling? Do they say hello? Observe. And really, that's the best way to tell, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So I just feel sad that you're all the way up there. You're not down here. And so tell me who Jones and Harrison is. Who they are.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Jones and Harrison. What's that?
Mm-hmm.
Who are they?
Oh, well, Jones, that goes back 126 years now. It was Jane T. Harrison. She was the president of the Women's Christian Association in Minnesota. And at that time, Minneapolis was a growing metropolis, and she saw all kinds of social issues, homelessness, welfare, poverty, those things. She wanted to do something about it, so she went to her board, and they decided to create a home for women of limited means. What they needed was some land, so they were working on that. Well, she died, and she left $30,000 to start the first home. Well, there was a woman on the board who was married to a prominent judge, Judge Jones, who had land. So 16 women went to his office and said they needed some land, and he didn't say no, so he donated all the land, about 60 acres south of Cedar Lake, to the Women's Christian Association to start the first home. So they brought in their first inmate. They had a matron that lived there. The criteria was that you needed to have a black dress and $300 for your burial, and they took care of you for the rest of your life.
A black dress, I love it.
That's the way they did it. They even had like a probation period, where the old ladies had to behave themselves for 60 days to stay. No one ever got kicked out. Everyone behaved. But ultimately, that's evolved, with welfare, social security, and all of these things. It's evolved into what it is today, a large nursing home in Minnesota, non-affiliated, non-attached, 501c3, and operating as a fully certified Medicaid and Medicare facility. Does that help?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
No, because the name is, unusual. I figured it had to be something good.
Well, that's why the hyphen is in our name.
Yeah, I
we
see
can't
that.
take it out. It's like that's the proper way to say it. Jones hyphen Harrison.
And the other thing that I had heard, because this is not then religiously based, it didn't start out that way, but so many of the elder homes started out as a way for the ministry of a certain area to take care of their elders as they aged. Isn't that true?
Oh, that's very true. I mean, you have all kinds of religious affiliated organizations throughout the country. They're national in many cases. And Jones Harrison, quite honestly, in those days, it was a Christian population. They're very philanthropic. So, I think the first men here were retired ministers and their wives. Retired ministers were the first men to come here. But ultimately, over time, it's a completely non-affiliated organization. So we're not part of the Presbyterians, and we're not in any way religiously associated. So. But you're right. There's plenty of organizations out there, and they do very well for the people that they serve, just from a denominational standpoint and just their religion.
Well, let me say that here in Miami Beach, no, it's really in Miami, but there's the Miami Jewish Home for the Aged, and I have to say that probably 80% are Medicaid beds, and they have major donors, and they are so far ahead of a lot of other communities like this because they did research. They have people there doing just research. First, it started out on deciding what a home should be like once it's been redone, or there's another word for that.
Yeah.
And they did research into that. Then they did research when they were doing Alzheimer's. They had the walks when people didn't realize that people with Alzheimer's need to walk a lot. So the Miami Jewish Home really was just what we were saying. Of course, that was Jewish. And even today, the area that it's in is not very good, but it's fenced in really well. But they have gorgeous buildings, great scientists. So, that's why I brought it up, because it isn't just Christian organizations. It was religious organizations.
In fact, we actually have a pretty healthy population of Jewish residents here.
Yeah, I know you do.
So it's just kind of interesting. We honor all faiths, so it works really well. The only thing we can't do very well is kosher food. We're not good at that.
Right.
And we're very honest about it.
No, of course not. Well, I understand that, but I think...
But it's interesting.
Yeah. I think the other thing is we notice that there are people, and I, in my field, know it's perfectly fine, and we have to educate the younger family members that a lot of the elders want to be together with...
Oh, yeah.
They want either it's male, female, or two women, or whatever it is. They want somebody that they can love and be with and who they can trust, even to the point where when their family members come, they ignore them. Isn't that interesting?
Love never goes away.
I know it.
It never goes away, and thank goodness, And that's, and I guess that kind of leads me back to this whole idea of, you talk about like this community at your place that's really good, and they, and that's what I think, Jones Harrison is trying to do, because the idea is that, there are quality organizations. We all provide great nursing care, okay? But that's just basic. We have to provide it. But where I think this whole idea that we have with this speaker series and new aging and whole living and meaningful life comes in is that we really feel like we need to pay more attention to this, the psychological and the spiritual needs of the people who come to these types of residences, because that's what gives them meaning. The care that we're all expected to do. And, I'm a really, I'm not the most brilliant guy on the planet, but from my standpoint, if we're trying to make a change in a paradigm, this is the perfect way, and it's just to start a conversation about what is consciousness and meaning for aging or for any age, because to me, if we can change the way that people feel about aging and about themselves and how they're aging, well, ultimately what that means is that when when they do come into a nursing home and they need one, they're going to know they have meaning, and what that's going to do is really change the way we all provide services to our aging population. You know, you got to get away from this whole warehouse and, shoot me idea where, you know, if we're providing those types of things, and the boomers are going to, you know, they're smart people, and they're coming. So, I don't know. I'm sorry I rambled on there a little bit.
No, you didn't. No, I think it's the meaningfulness and what you've been talking about, the emotional, psychological issues that, as you said, medication alone can't manage and resolve. It has to be the people who work in the nursing homes, has to be the volunteers who come from the outside community there because they want to be there. It has to be the family members who realize that their family did a lot for them, and even if maybe they're not in the best condition right now, that they have to have that love and be there for them, because we are being overwhelmed with aging and caring issues, and unfortunately a lot of people aren't prepared for it. The caregivers are not prepared for what's in front of them. Do you agree?
Oh, I thoroughly agree, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, you know, people ask me, well, do you have a waiting list, you know, for the nursing home? And, you know, we have people who call and inquire, and we keep their names, you know. But ultimately, I don't put a whole lot of stock in a waiting list because, quite honestly, like I said, no one thinks about a nursing home until you really need one, and you need a good one, and you need it now. And that can be such a traumatizing thing for a family, first of all, just emotionally, because all their parents ever said is, don't ever put me in a nursing home, you know.
Right.
And
Kill me first. They always say, yeah, right. Or I'll take you out of my will if you... I mean, I've heard all these things.
Oh, sure. I know. You know, but ultimately I've also seen the idea that once meds are controlled and you know, food is you know, their intake is managed and their meds are dealt with appropriately, people get better and they get social.
Yeah, they do.
They love the social thing.
I know they do.
And it helps. So, while it's hard for families, sometimes I've talked to them and they're like, you know, we've seen she's doing so much better.
Right.
Like, well,
They
that's
just
good
didn't
to
know.
hear. You know, that's good to hear.
Well, Lowell, it's been a pleasure to talk with you. We've just run out of time, and you see it was very painless, wasn't it?
Oh, I've enjoyed it. I could talk to you for hours.
Well, we're from the same ilk, you know. We believe in the same things, and I am so happy that you all are doing that there. And maybe we can do something together. I don't know what, but I certainly do appreciate your taking the time, and I love what you're doing, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, if there's anybody out there that's interested in talking to me or talking to my partner, Jane Barish at the Continuum Center, we're more than happy to do that. We're just trying to start a conversation.
Right. Well, you've done a good job of it. You've done a good job, and hopefully we'll talk to you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye.